Good afternoon. I call the Traffic Committee meeting to order at approximately 3:04 p.m. on Tuesday, March 10th, 2020. We'll go ahead and start with self-introductions. My name is Melissa Demirci with the West Covina Traffic Division.
Jana Robbins with the West Covina Traffic Division.
Michael Ackerman, City Engineer.
Sergeant Brian Daniels, West Covina Police Department, Traffic Bureau.
And with that, I'll go ahead and begin on the agenda that was posted on the city website as well as outside of City Hall. The first item is call to order, which we have already done. Item number 2 is previous traffic committee items that were approved at the February 11th, 2020 meeting. We went ahead and summarized the 5 items that went before the traffic committee in the last meeting for approval. These are set to go to City Council on the consent item for approval as well. From there, I'll move on to item 3, which is new traffic committee items. The first item is just an announcement. The city is hosting a community meeting workshop on Monday, March 16th at 6:30 p.m. at Cortez Park Senior Center. The address is 2501 East Cortez Street in West Covina. And this is to discuss the intersection of Citrus Street and Cameron Avenue. If you are interested in attending, we welcome you to come join us and participate in our workshop to discuss various potential improvements at the intersection. Residents living within the project area have been mailed flyers for this meeting as well. And I will go on to item 2, which is a traffic review for red curb in front of the Foothill Transit bus stop near Melinda Avenue, south of Glendora Avenue. Oh, yes.
Yes, that's the correct intersection.
Yeah, that is the correct intersection. It's not this one, right?
No.
Here it is. I apologize. So the West Covina Police Department brought this request to our attention. We took a look at the issue at the intersection in terms of parking and line of sight, as well as the bus stops along Melinda Avenue. And what's happening is basically when vehicles are parked along the west side of Melinda Avenue, the motorist traveling along the curb lane heading southbound has to quickly switch lanes to avoid essentially parked vehicles, and it also affects the buses when trying to pull out to the bus stop, since they have to wait for a gap in traffic in order to switch lanes instead of continuing in the curb lane due to parked vehicles. It does create backup along the curb lane since vehicles have to stop and switch lanes. It is generally accepted that a curb lane needs to be a minimum width of approximately 18 feet to allow on-street parking. We did do an analysis of existing conditions, lane widths along Melinda Avenue, south of Glendora Avenue. And we also did some field pictures to take a look at what the existing conditions are. And based on our findings, what we are recommending is to paint approximately 100 feet of repaint approximately 100 feet of existing red curb on the west side of Melinda.
It's on the east side.
On the east side of Melinda Avenue, and as well as paint approximately 120 feet of red curb to extend the existing red curb along that corridor. And we have a proposed diagram showing the red curb length in the proposed recommendations.
Yeah, on this one it's a little difficult because it's not a true north-south street. So for this exercise, Melinda is considered the north-south street and Glendora the east-west street. So if you look at figure 2, the east side of Melinda Avenue, where people are parking, there's a bus stop, and then the curb lane is only 15 feet wide. So what's happening is PD reported that cars are parking all along here, and some of them have been rear-ended because there's not enough room. So cars are swerving around the parked car because there's not enough travel lane, because we need a minimum 18 feet. So that's 7 to 8 feet for parking, and then at least a 10 or 11 foot for a travel lane. And this also affects the buses when they try to pull out. Because it's not red, people may be parking there to park and ride all day or something, but.
Actually, I think that some of it is some of the residents that live across in the, I think their townhomes. It became more of an issue once that was built a couple
Developed,
years ago.
so they may be using it for overflow
Right.
parking, but, I mean,
But
it's
it
just,
does create
yeah.
a traffic
It
hazard.
creates a
that we're
hazard,
traveling
yes. So what we've done is we've painted the red curb up until the lane becomes 18 feet wide, and then, we'll allow the parking as long as there's enough room.
And with that, I'll open up to comments from committee members.
I think this is a good recommendation.
Well, it's also, even though it's maybe convenient for those residents, I don't think they realize that cars are having to
Hazard.
pull around them. And if there's two cars coming, it could, rear end your car, so let's put a stop to that.
And there are no audience members on this item, so we'll go for a motion to approve the recommendations.
Make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So this motion is approved for final city council approval at a future city council meeting. And with that, I'll move on to item 3, which is a traffic review of the curb on north of Baymar Avenue and Idaho Street. And a request came in to evaluate the curve where Idaho turns into Baymar Avenue. And according to the resident that requested this, vehicles that may be unfamiliar with the area failed to reduce their speeds, and they don't anticipate the curve, so they're coming at high speeds. And they wanted to know what type of maybe traffic calming measures or awareness could be added to that curve to alert drivers that there is a curve there. And we did an analysis, and what we are recommending based on CMUTCD guidelines is to install approximately 50-foot long center line double yellow that delineates each lane at the center of the curve, as well as to install chevron alignment signs along the curve, and approaching the curve in both directions, install a 50-mile-per-hour curve ahead signage to alert drivers that there is a curve in this area. And with that, in addition, to also install 60 feet of red curb on the opposite side of the curve to deter vehicles from parking there. So when vehicles are making that turn, there is clear pathway for vehicles to turn. And there are no audience members present for this item, and with that, I'll open up to the committee for comments.
No comment.
In this one, at least, the center curve will make sure that people going around the curve stay in their own lane, because the resident said that people are coming up into his driveway. And then the chevron alignment signs, there's an existing, I believe it's a street light. So if we put one on each side for each direction, just at night, then it'll be a reflective reminder that there is a curve, so.
And with that, do I have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So this motion is approved based on final city council direction. And the final item that we have under new items is a line of sight review at Phillips Avenue east of Workman Avenue. West Covina received a request to review the line of sight at the intersection of Phillips and Workman. The resident stated that there are restricted view of approaching vehicles due to parked cars when trying to exit from Phillips Avenue. There's also a crosswalk at this intersection as well in the east leg, and it's an uncontrolled crosswalk, which means there is no stop sign or traffic signal. We reviewed existing conditions and field review of the line of sight, and based on the 25-mile-per-hour design speed and AASHTO, we did a line of sight analysis for we did it for the vehicles actually exiting Phillips Avenue, seeing approaching vehicles coming down Workman, as well as we did a line of sight analysis for pedestrian visibility as well. So we do have the 2 line of sight triangles. Based on that, and given that there are existing red curb already that take care of some of the line of sight recommendations within them, we are recommending to install approximately 10 feet of existing red curb on the south side of Workman Avenue, near the crosswalk, as well as update some of the signage for the uncontrolled crosswalks to bring it up to CMUTCD standards, which includes removing the old outdated school crossing signage and replacing it with pedestrians yield here signage with accompanying yield lines on each side to alert our vehicles essentially to stop there for crossing pedestrians. We're also recommending for repainting of the existing crosswalk to match the uncontrolled crosswalk paint. Right now it's just I guess a line crosswalk, but since it is in the same intersection, both crosswalks should match, so we will repaint that to match. And with that, there are no committee members, and there are no audience members present, and I will open it up to committee members for comments.
Any comments? I think at first this item was brought to our attention as a line of sight only at Phillips and Workman, but when we looked at it, we noticed that it's across from the school as well as the crosswalk. So when we look at something, you know, safety-wise, we need to include an item that maybe the resident didn't have an issue about, but if we see something that's non-compliant, we're going to suggest recommendations for that. That's how the crosswalk itself came into play. I know there are some issues with the drop-off pickup at Workman Elementary, so we are looking at that, but that'll be a separate item.
I think it's a good recommendation.
Agreed.
Okay,
Do I have a motion for approval?
a motion?
Second. All in favor?
Oh,
Aye.
And with that, this item is approved for City Council final approval. And is there any audience, there's no audience present, so is there any committee member comments?
Additional items.
Okay, so with that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.